Hi, everyone. We're back with reJUVEnation, and we'll be covering the Juventus Benevento post match. And I have a special guest here to uncover the circus. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Vincent van Genechten. I am a Belgian Juve supporter and a Belgian sport journalist for het Nieuwsblad, which is the second biggest newspaper in our country. And I've been following Juve for many years and up until this low point in Juve history. So here I am.
All right. I don't know if this. I don't think this gets much lower than the Calciopoli, but it's not a great time if you're just joining in on the Juventus party. Um, we suffer, I would say, an embarrassing loss tonight at home, 1-0 to Benevento. Essentially, putting the nail in the coffin to our Scudetto hopes. I feel like I'm in this in between where it feels like there's a lot to unpack, but at the same time, it doesn't, because it feels like we've seen this story throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
And a lot of what will be mentioned, I'm sure, is not just relevant to this Benevento match, um, which I think is the main issue. We can start with some of the quotes, I guess, being said um, in and around the Juve personnel, starting with Paratici, saying that taking real pride in the fact that we're keeping Cristiano Ronaldo, or
Supposedly, yes.
supposedly keeping Ronaldo, that he's the best in the world, and he'll stay with us. Also, some other quotes that Paratici said, I hear talk about the cycle being over. It ended in Berlin, Cardiff, and then with Conte. But we always continue to win. We've taken risks. Sometimes they work out, and sometimes they don't. Um, I think there's a difference in taking a risk and not having a plan. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that quote from Paratici?
Well, the problem with the Juve management and also Pirlo after the game is that they never seem to be upset by a loss or a bad game or something. They're always positive. I'm like, you just lost at home to Benevento, and I love Pippo Inzaghi. I mean, he's a legend, but come on, it's Benevento at home. So, and there are no fans, I know, but then again, they have to travel to Turin, and then on and on, and it's always the positive. And we're going to win. We're going to win. I mean, you're not winning. You're losing to Inter of all clubs, the Scudetto. So, I mean, those positive comments, I read them, but I don't want to read them because they don't mean anything. Also, with Ronaldo, it was very, with the GOAT and the 770 goals jersey before the game. I mean, it's fine, but that is just Juventus as it is, meaning Ronaldo and the show of Ronaldo, and then it ends for me. There's no real plan. There's no real top players at this team at the moment for me. Besides Ronaldo, so I don't know where they're going. They don't have the money to spend a lot next summer. So, and Inter for me are just getting really just going by now. If Conte stays, so Lukaku is even better. We're not analyzing Inter here, but I feel they're getting to the next level, and Juventus is just going downhill. So I feel like if we're winning a Scudetto next season, I would be very surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to continue to, I guess, back the management, especially. We blame, well, not we. I blame Pirlo for many things, and we'll discuss what went wrong in this match in particular, but ultimately it's the management, at the wheel, all the way at the top, making that decision to hire an inexperienced coach. He got his license like a few games into the season. Um,
Yeah.
so there's many reasons why. the management went with Pirlo, and we don't have to get into them at this point. Um,
I think it's
but
just money, so but
yeah, like largely due with money. And he's a fan favorite. It just seemed like a bulletproof situation.
yeah,
If it went well, it looks great on the management taking that risk, and obviously everyone loves Pirlo regardless. And if it fails, you pitch that transition period. But speaking of which, Paratici was asked about Pirlo, and he said that he'll definitely stay. And then he was asked also about a transition year, and he said it doesn't exist here. We play to win.
yeah.
So it's just like constantly mixed signals. For me, I don't like the fact that Pirlo doesn't seem to take any accountability for any of the results that we've suffered this season. Um, what he said was the desire to win the game was there, but we made a lot of mistakes. Unfortunately, we were unable to bring home the result. We must continue to believe in the Scudetto.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it goes to your point with there's no, like, they talk about a reaction, but there's no reaction ever.
No.
And Pirlo also says we need to start changing our mind and attitude. And the objective remains the same, but I really don't understand those quotes. And you know what you mentioned about the goat CR7 uh jersey, and I posed a question during the match, like, how do people feel about that? To me, it kind of, like you said, you hit it on the nail, of that being Juventus right now. That is Juventus right
Yeah.
now. And we've never been a team to rely on one player, one goal scorer, one legend type of thing. Which is just, in all respects, I feel like we've been going against our traditions, which I guess is what fans wanted, and why Allegri was so, ridiculed during especially the end of his time. Um,
And
but
actually is the best Juve coach ever, in my opinion. But
have not been alive for, to watch Lippi at the helm of Juve, but obviously in my time, being through Conte, and the banter era, obviously wouldn't pick any of them, Del Neri, Ferrara and stuff like that. But in the winning era of my watching, for sure I would say Allegri. Um, but I just want to touch on, you know, all the talk surrounding Ronaldo. What I was thinking is, there's this approach, I guess, with the fans talking about we're always playing for Ronaldo. We're looking for Ronaldo all the time. This isn't what Juve is about. We're meant to play as a team. We've never had this star guy. Um, and so we also see the same side of that, and people saying this guy can't even score against Benevento. So I'm kind of confused with like, I don't know. I just feel like they contradict each other. We complain that we're always looking for Ronaldo, but then we complain that he doesn't show up every single game and score, and saves our asses every single game.
yeah.
Um, so my I guess my question is, where do we go from here with Ronaldo? I know that we'd be missing tons of goals, but on the other side, Juve, like I've mentioned, has never had a top scorer. Goals have always come from everywhere, building as a team, and we've always been okay that way. So what do you think? I guess benefits this team.
Um, about Ronaldo, well, supposedly he's staying. So if we believe Paratici, I don't think he's going to stay. I don't think he should stay because it just costs a lot of money, and Juve don't have 31. They have 31 million a year for him, but he's not worth it. He's worth it because the first time when Juve announced the Ronaldo transfer, the second day I bought a jersey of him because he's Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, and it cost me like 150 euros because they're very expensive, the Juve jerseys. But then again, I love Ronaldo. For me, he's the best player of all time, above Messi and all other players. But yeah, it's just making Juventus a one-hit wonder, in my opinion. They just have one, vision to go to. It's Ronaldo. And in the past, we had a lot of legends, which were Del Piero, Nedved. I don't have to name them, but you had a lot of options in attack. You had a lot of options to win games, and now it seems like we only have one, which is Ronaldo scoring a goal with a. He almost scored one with a bicycle kick against Benevento, which would set the world on fire, in my opinion. But in my opinion, he has to go because he's not. It's sad to say about him, but he is not Juventus. And that is the problem. You need to be Juventus and not Ronaldo. If you talk to people now, people I know here, and I say Juventus, they don't say Juventus. They just say, oh, yeah, it's Cristiano Ronaldo's team. And that is the problem, in my opinion. So he's been good for marketing and for jersey sales and other stuff. But by now, I don't think he should stay in Turin, and also for himself, because he's not winning anything soon with this team. So, and he's going like 36 by now. So,
And I think that's the exact issue. We shouldn't be, I personally don't think that we play, game in and game out looking for Ronaldo every single chance we get. Obviously, if you're in a good position and Ronaldo is to your side, it often goes to him, unfortunately. But I
but that is not.
disagree.
But that
Yeah,
is
go
not
ahead.
because the other players are looking for him. It's just because he's everywhere most of the time. So it's not because Pirlo says before the game, like, play the ball to Ronaldo and just move away. It's not that. It just, the other players are just not to his standards. That is just the drama of this Juventus. And to come back to Pirlo, I don't blame Pirlo for that, because do you know one midfielder? I asked one of my colleagues latest, do you know one midfielder of Juventus? And I believe he said, I don't know anyone, because we have Rabiot is mediocre, Bentancur is just bad this season. Artur is fine, but then again, he gives this arrogant pass today against Benevento, which why we lose. He's also injured. Ramsey is always injured. I'm like, you don't win games with those players. That is a problem. If you have other players like Modric and like Toni Kroos and Benzema with Ronaldo, you have a super team. But with this, no, you don't have
But I would
a great
argue,
team.
that if I ask the average fan, can you name me Inter's midfield? I'm sure they wouldn't even know Barella, and he's on the rise. And we're talking about this midfield of you mentioned Modric and Cruz and Casemiro, guys like that. This is Benevento.
Yeah, no.
this is Benevento.
There's a Belgian player at Benevento.
Like
You know,
it's I can't believe like we have to have this conversation. And I posed a question at the full time saying, do you think that we have enough to make the top four? um Most people said we have enough to make the top four, and then it's questionable whether this team is enough to actually win the Scudetto. Which, I mean, if you're looking at each team, I mean, I would line up against Milan, player by player, and I would think that this team is better than Milan's.
yeah.
Um, and Milan has been more consistent than Juve. Like, let's just say it how it is, with or without Ibra, with or without all these guys missing. They
Yeah.
had no excuse today. We've been constantly giving the benefit of the doubt to Pirlo. Um,
But
not
then
having.
again, to come to Pirlo, I tweeted it was almost the perfect starting lineup. You had Artur in there, you had Kulusevski in midfield, Morata, Ronaldo in attack. You only had Bernardeschi at the left side, but then again, he was the only option, apart from Frabotta, I believe. So the lineup wasn't wrong. It didn't work. So can you blame that on Pirlo? No, you can't blame that on Pirlo.
Well, I mean, there's certain things that if it's not working, well, what are you gonna do about it? And I think I want to get into that, but first, going more back to to this match in particular, if you can find anyone, who would be your man of the match?
Anyone? I'm a big Kulusevski fan, and I felt he played a pretty decent game. I can't say he played a good game, but he played a pretty decent game because he was everywhere. He was doing his, his dribbles on the right side. He was trying with through balls, and he almost scored at one point. So I feel he at least tried to be effective on the field. I mean, Chiesa had a very bad game in my opinion, and I can't think of anyone else who was better than or not so worse, not so bad as Kulusevski. So Kulusevski at least tried to win a game, in my opinion.
I'd for the most part agree with you there. I thought, Kulusevski this time around was our only or our most threatening player, and I felt that, if something was coming, it's gonna come from his side. We most of the play went through him in general,
Yeah,
kind of replacing Quadrado's effect when he's on that right side, whipping in balls and things like that. But I do have my issues with Kulusevski. Um, I'm not the biggest fan, and I understand that he's young, and there's glimpses for sure. Um, but in the back of my head, I always think if this guy's gonna replace Dybala, then I think we're in for a little rough patch. I think his
yeah,
decision making is really poor still. I think he could have had a go with his left foot and he brought it onto his right foot, which kind of doesn't make any sense because when he has the opportunity to bring it onto his right foot, he never does and he always cuts left. And so it's still very frustrating. But we were so poor that his play was kind of the only bright spot. The only issue I have with that is, like you mentioned, Chiesa had a very poor game, but what's that down to? You're sacrificing Chiesa, and this goes to Pirlo, right? How much has he played? Guys in uh in
the best
unnatural
position.
positions.
Yeah,
And Chiesa is, if not your best Juve player this season, one of the best. Arguably Ronaldo up there, obviously. Um, and you're not getting the best out of him, and you're sacrificing his preferred side for Kulusevski.
yeah,
So that kind of, to me, it falls on Pirlo, and you go 75 minutes, 1-0 down, and you finally switch Chiesa to the right side. Um, so of course, that shows that that it shows your inexperience, but instead of using it as an excuse,
yeah.
it should really be used as this is a problem. Um, you
Yeah,
you have
I
to
know
be.
I
Yeah,
know
go
where
ahead.
I know where you're coming from with Chiesa, because I also thought, why isn't he playing right side, and is he playing on the left side? Because he's always been bad on the left side. But then again, Chiesa could just play a good game on the left side for once. It's just a mix of different circumstances. And I've also said this about Weston McKennie, because we've also raved about Weston McKennie's season. But if we're raving about Weston McKennie, I mean, Juve have a problem. I love Weston McKennie, but he's not a world-class midfielder. So if he's your best midfielder of the season, that is a problem for Juventus. So, and not to hit on Weston McKennie because I love him. He had a good substitution in my opinion, but it's just levels. We've come down a level in my opinion this season, and that is just the issue because Inter are going 2 levels up this season. So
Yeah, it's true. I think I had Carlo Garganese on, early on when I started, and his hot take was, that McKenny is not that great of a player. Like he does the job, but um, is he looking much better because of our midfield? And you can argue that he's carrying a knock, so he's been up and down this season, but um for sure that's an issue, and you make a good point in our standards in general. lowering, and it could be, an issue of complacency, because of how much we've dominated in Serie A. Is this finally gonna kick themselves, kick the management, to finally make a change? Who was the worst for you on the field today?
Well, I've said Chiesa because he didn't do much, but also Leonardo Bonucci. Once again, I was a mega fan of Bonucci like a few years ago, before he went to Milan, the biggest mistake of his life. But nowadays he's not even defending, in my opinion. He's always been great with his spatial awareness and his positional play. But I saw him at one point run forward alongside Adolfo Gaich, who scored a goal. And Gaich turned and was quick in going forward to come to attack. And Leonardo Bonucci was like 5 meters behind him. So he defended well, but then he just isn't quick enough, or he doesn't care. I don't know what's wrong with him. If Matthijs de Ligt does this, he's always in front of his opponent, And Leonardo Bonucci he's lost his touch, he's lost his spatial awareness, which made him so good in his heydays. And he's only there because he's the most experienced guy with Chiellini out, and I'm not sure why he's there. I have no idea what to say about Bonucci anymore. He's also with the goal. He could attack, guides tackle, make a tackle or something. He stands there, with his hands behind his back. I'm like, what are you doing? You're doing nothing. You're giving the guy the chance to make a goal. And Danilo was also bad, but then again, Bonucci could just have tackled him, and he didn't do anything. I mean, I could do what he did. Just stand there watching the ball go in with the hand behind his head, and then he's doing like he's looking around like others are to blame. Of course, Artur is to blame, but that is not a Juve captain worthy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought he was actually very poor on the where I think that Lapadula could have scored as well. Lapadula kind of turned him, and I think like kind of fluffed his own lines, and then we recovered the ball. I think it was maybe Bernardeschi or someone else recovered the ball after that, but
Yeah.
he's never been good at defending number nines, especially. He often gets bullied against those types of players. So I'm with you there. I don't think that was the issue today, but I think I'm not sure even who to pick as a worst. I felt the team was awful. Morata was awful again. Missing right in front of the goal, and of course, we love the things off the ball that Morata does, and you see how much he works for Ronaldo and with Ronaldo because of what he does off the ball, and even for Chiesa and everyone else around him. But at the end of the day, you're a striker. You have to score goals, and he looked awful as well. Danilo didn't look great either. A lot of between him and Bernardeschi, I don't know how many times they lost the ball back there. Obviously
We're not.
Bernardeschi.
I'm excluding Bernardeschi from this conversation because he's just too bad to be on the pitch. So, but he was the only option. So,
Yeah, at this point, leading up to the game, I was like, here it is. Bernardeschi's gonna play at his level, and it was just awful as expected. But like you said, we had, I guess, no one else. I would have. Who knows if Frabotta is just as bad. So it is what it is, and I think we as Juventini should value Quadrado much more than we do, because of this reason. Danilo on the left and Quadrado on the right. That's how it should always be. The only issue with that is where Chiesa goes afterwards, because he can't play on the same side as Quadrado. Um, but again, another player who shouldn't see the field, only if necessary as a rotational player, in Bernardeschi. And of course, we mentioned Arthur making that uncharacteristic mistake. For a player like him, you often felt the ball is secure at his feet.
Yeah,
getting out of tight areas and so forth. But it hasn't been uncharacteristic of Juve this season,
yeah,
to make mistakes like that, um, especially in the first half. Of course, this happened later on in the match, but is there an issue in the team? In the team's concentration, or um, is it leadership? Why are we constantly making these mistakes? And you could argue that they're individual mistakes, but it's been happening so often. And even regardless of a failed pass, we've often, the second goal against Porto was a whole defensive lapse, in
yeah.
Porto, was a whole defensive lapse on that left side. What does that come down to, these silly, lapses in concentration?
Well, I wrote one keyword down here on my paper when I was watching the game, and it's miscommunication. So it's just, you saw this, and it was classic when Arthur hit Ronaldo in the head at one point, and the ball went over the line, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is Juventus at this point. It was like numerous times during the game where like two players were at the ball at the same moment, and no one knew who to take the ball. And then Arthur giving the bad pass, and I was like, man, this is Juventus at its lowest. It's not even a good. They don't even play good football this season, which was exactly the point why Pirlo was hired, why Sarri was hired last season. I mean, they have gone a fully new direction and failed at it. That is the conclusion of last season, which they won the Scudetto. I threw a party when they won Scudetto because it was unbelievable that they won it, in my opinion. Because Inter just crashed it. It's just miscommunication, it's arrogance, it's complacency. It's like you see Benevento at home, you should be up like 3-0, 3-0 at the half point. It's 0-0 with 65% possession, but you don't do nothing with the possession. So why have the possession, in my opinion? I would rather see Juventus have 20% possession and score 2 goals. That is just way more effective than I think Sergio Busquets once said this with Barcelona last season, I believe. Like, if you have the ball but you don't do anything with it, why have possession? And that is coming from a guy from a team that loves
Loves
and
it.
dominates possession. So Juventus is trying to copy that, but it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work because you don't have the players, because you don't have the attitude. I
you
mean,
know
it's Arthur giving the pass, which Arthur is actually our finest footballer in my opinion. Technically he's great, and I love him. I hope he stays. But him giving the bad pass is just, yeah, it just highlights the imperfections of this team. So
you kind of nailed it when I was gonna bring up, our gameplay and what we can even take out of this game and out of this season. Um, touching on this game in particular, 73% possession versus 27% possession, 86% pass success versus 65%, 7 shots on target versus 1 shot on target. And that's been the theme this season.
yeah,
And I've said it multiple occasions. Why do we continue to play this way, and not learn from our mistakes? If our best game of the season, in my opinion, was 2-0 versus Roma, and how we played that game was the complete opposite of this garbage that we're seeing. We were pragmatic. We could have been playing that game for hours, and Roma never looked like they were going to score. Benevento on the run against us, you know I was like, okay, it's coming. Okay, it's coming. Okay, it's coming. And I'm surprised it didn't come sooner. And they only had 27% possession, and you feel like it's gonna come, which is just doesn't make any sense to me.
yeah,
And I've said it too. Like you said, we definitely don't have the players to play this game. So why continue to force this way on the players when it obviously isn't working? And wouldn't you want to um you know get the best out of your what you have?
Yeah, that
So
is obviously that is the task of a coach. And then we come to Pirlo again. So he doesn't know how to get the best from out of his players. That is the problem, but it's also because the players aren't good enough. That is just clashing, and now today it came burning down. So I don't know what to say at this point. So yeah, it's Benevento at home. We are here doing a podcast about Benevento, Juventus losing at home to Benevento. And with all respect to Benevento, they should just go cry and go home with a 5-0 defeat, you know. And now we're here talking about the 0-1 win. So that is just, it's insane, actually.
and I bring up I've brought it up a few times on the podcast that I've been on and my own here. Um, if you watch the Parma versus Inter game a few weeks back, um, Parma took the game to Inter. Like Inter was just defending the whole game against Parma, a bottom side, and Inter ended up winning. And people call on those performances being cowardly, calling out Napoli for playing the way they did against Juve at home. Yet they took home a 1-0 win. And I don't understand that notion. Like, so it was our approach today against Benevento honorable? Like it
No,
really
absolutely not. So
it really just that notion doesn't make sense to me. And I know people are fed up with Allegri talk, but um how can you not compare? We compare players all the time, and I think it's fair to compare the season to Allegri and what he was able to achieve with what he had. And you I guess you can argue that Serie A hasn't been as good as it is this time around, but it's inexcusable against having 1 point against Benevento, um, through Serie A, losing 2 points against Crotone, only getting 2 points from Verona. You know what? I just don't understand that type of argument when it's against these sides. For sure, we have a good enough team, for this to get these results, no matter who's in the midfield, no matter the circumstances. I feel like it comes to the down to the coach being naive and insisting on these same tactics. Like, I want to ask you a question. What's Juventus's identity right now? What can you say Juventus is gonna go out on the pitch next time around, and you're gonna see this exact same thing from Juventus?
well, the identity of this Juventus is that next week, in 2 weeks, against Torino, they're going to go on the pitch and try to win with a goal from Ronaldo. That is Juventus at this point. And I also say try to win with a goal from Ronaldo. They're going to win. So that is pretty much the issue. It's been also Juventus has always been. I'm not. I don't. In Belgium, there are not a lot of Italian football fans because I always say Italian football is boring, and I always say, well, Italian football just is results. Results is the only thing that matters. For me, it's the only thing that matters in football. I don't watch football because I love to watch great football. I just want to see my team win a game, and I don't care if it's with a first minute goal or a 89-minute goal or a 65-minute goal. I don't care about that, and Juventus haven't cared about that for like
As long
forever.
as they existed.
Well, as long as they existed, and since like 3 years with Ronaldo, and it's not down to Ronaldo, but since the change, they just try to play good football, fail at playing good football, and fail at winning easy games. So by now, the plan from Juventus, from Nedved, from Pirlo is to win a game, to try and win a game with a goal from Ronaldo. And that is really sad to say that.
It's definitely, it's a hard pill to swallow because like you, I went and bought, Ronaldo's jersey. I purchased a Ronaldo jersey ever since he's joined because, he's arguably the greatest of all time. And it's sad to say that, maybe we should move on from him because, it's hard. It's hard to move away from someone who can definitely get you to your goal of a Champions League. Um, but obviously, it's been project failed. 100% it's been project failed. And
Yeah,
I think, you took the opportunity, which in my opinion, any team who was able to would have, in signing him. But I think you just got to accept the loss and kind of move forward. If you're talking about rebuilding, and if you're talking about Pirlo, I find it difficult to believe that we're gonna invest heavily in our serious holes within this team, um, to try to build a Champions League winning team around Ronaldo.
yeah,
Um, if Chiellini, which I think especially uh, without winning the Scudetto. I think either way, Chiellini would have hung them up. But you have a guy like Chiellini who's thinking about retiring. Reportedly, you don't really know when Buffon is gonna call it quits here and there, creating more holes in this team for this management to fill. And then
yeah.
you obviously have a situation with Dybala and his potential extension and whatever he's reportedly wanting salary wise. And if you tie that up in one player, then you have two players tying up majority of the funds. Where do you kind of go from there? um and I want to ask you, if you think Pirlo should be on, for next season, or what would, in your eyes, define a successful season under Pirlo, and what would warrant another season at Juventus, and what wouldn't?
Well, I think Pirlo is definitely going to stay, just because he doesn't have a large salary, and you will need all the funds to get new players. I mean, Manuel Locatelli is already costing 30 million euros, so you have to spend big to get great players. Unless you're going the free route with like guys like Memphis Depay or something, but then again, those transfers have backfired a little bit with large wages, like Rabiot. But I think Pirlo is definitely going to stay. If he finishes in the top four, I mean, it's a must. I hope he finishes second. It doesn't really matter if you finish second or fourth, but just to pass Milan, to keep Napoli behind, it's like, they would throw a party because they're going in front of Juventus, but yeah, we shouldn't allow that to happen. So I feel Juve should go second, win the Coppa, which by now would be our only trophy this season. So, and it's against Atalanta, a team I really love, and I wouldn't mind see them winning the Coppa, because they deserve it for the last couple of years. I know. But then again, Juventus have to win that game. So they have to win the Coppa, finish second, and then you go from there. You go with Pirlo. You ask what he wants because he's the coach, and I hope you go for a guy like Locatelli in midfield. If you put him next to Artur, I feel you have a very dynamic midfield. And then again, I hope they sell Dybala, because his time is up, in my opinion, at Juve. He's been very poor. He had very poor attitude, in my opinion. He's asking. I don't know how much he's asking, but because people have said he's asking like 10 million a year. Some have said he's asking 50 million a year. I know he's very popular in Turin, but I think his time is up. He can't play together with Ronaldo. He can't play together with Messi. If you can't play together with the two goats of football, I don't feel you're going to become a world superstar. So I would sell him, because he's still valuable at this point, and spend the money like on Locatelli. A guy like Aouar or Rodrigo de Paul would fit Juve's needs, and go from there. Because at the back, I think Juve are solid in defense. In midfield, they need a lot of work, and in attack, yeah, it's going to be fine with Ronaldo, with Morata. So with Kulusevski, Chiesa, they're fine. They just need to sell Dybala, in my opinion, and go for Locatelli and one of Aouar in the Paul.
Yeah, for sure. The midfield needs some work. I would agree that if we make the top four, which isn't even a guarantee at this point, Atalanta, win again. I don't know what the Milan score is right now, but
yeah, Juve still have to play Milan, Inter, Napoli, Atalanta.
Atalanta, of course, yeah. And losing to Benevento doesn't help your case, and doesn't make me believe that you deserve this at all. Like, what are we defending? We can't defend the board, the coach, and the players when you're losing points to the bottom of the table. And I agree that Pirlo should stay if we make the top four. If we fail to make the top four, 100%, the amount of changes that we'll see, it would just be incredible. Ronaldo would be gone for sure, Pirlo gone for sure, or at that point, who even cares if you keep Pirlo or not, right? At that point, because tons of changes would happen if we fail to make top four, mostly due to finances. But you
Let's
talk about
try not to think about it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a reality,
Yeah.
Did we, think that we were gonna lose against Benevento? Maybe, some people. You can argue that we wouldn't be shocked if we got 1 point from this game, but no one expected the season to turn out the results to be this terrible. So you never say never type of thing with this team. It's too unpredictable and too inconsistent. But you mentioned Atalanta. I don't think that we're gonna win the Coppa Italia this season. I think we're gonna go trophyless. Do you think the
and
same?
maybe that wouldn't be a bad thing by now. So just to send a signal to the management that everything is very bad at this point.
Yeah,
But then
that's a
again, you can't hope your team to lose a final,
Oh no,
So,
no, not hope, but it's like being realistic, right? Uh,
yeah.
I think that we're gonna go into that game and control the game, and Atalanta's just gonna kill us on the counterattack. It's just knowing how predictable Pirlo's play is, and okay, that's kind of my next question is, do you want to see these tactics, if you want to call them that, his style of play? Do you want to see that continue?
Well, I think Pirlo is I said at the start, before we started, that he's eternal because he's an eternal figure. He's a legend. I think he's a very intelligent person because he was a very intelligent player. So I feel he's going to, he's going to rethink all this stuff, and you have to give him some slack because with Corona and going on, he had like what 2-3 weeks to prepare the season, and you can't change things, change stuff during the season. But it's hard to do, with the shortened season, with all the games coming. By at some point you're just going to go by the thing you feel most comfortable with, and that is the game, the starting lineup we played today. With a hybrid 4-4-2, which should have worked against Benevento, but it didn't. So I feel he's going to get back to his thesis. He's going to rewrite it at some point or at some parts of it, and he's going to come out with some new intellect or view about Juventus. I feel,
But
because
surely, it's his job to get this team organized and positionally. I mean, if you look at this game, players were all over the place. You mentioned it about Bonucci, and that's not the first time he himself or our defenders in general have pushed that high up the field. Danilo essentially plays as an extra midfielder every single game that he plays. That seems to be a tactic of Pirlo for Danilo, especially.
yeah,
Kind of going into that hybrid 3-5-2. And there was times where Bernardeschi ended up on the right a few times. Kulusevski and Chiesa changed back and forth a few times.
Yeah.
I saw Bernardeschi as a in a striking like as a striker position with his back to goal a few times. Like players are just all over the place. And
Yeah.
something about Conte, his tactics are limited, but every player is in the right spot. You know where this player is going to move to, you know where this player is going to be, and everyone has that understanding with each other. Conte keeps his players, every player knows where they're supposed to be and knows where the next guy is going to be. And I have not seen that from Pirlo, thus far. And
Yeah, I don't. I think that is because I don't believe Pirlo is trying to be like Conte. He wants these hybrid players who can play. Juventus have searched for them for many years now, like Kulusevski, who can play different positions, like Morata can play different positions, like Dybala, like Bernardeschi. I mean, they hail Bernardeschi because he can play in different positions. That is because,
he
yeah,
stinks.
because yeah, he stinks at every position, but then again, he can play in different positions. So it's been somewhat of a focal point for Juve players or the Juve management in transfer markets the last couple of years, and uh, it also works. It can work if you go. It's mesmerizing. It's confusing for opponents if Chiesa starts on the left, goes to the right, goes back, Bernardeschi goes to the 9 at some point. It can be very confusing for the tactics of the opponent, but you need the players and the level of players and coaching and tactics to make that work. And that is just not working. That is the point. I don't see any problem with the basic tactic itself, changing positions and go and so forth. But with Juve, it just doesn't work because they are used to be a club that has defined positions and defined roles and going forward and winning with them. So that is an issue for Pirlo this summer.
I think the argument for this, I guess, positive football, I don't know what to call this football, but this type of football is supposed to win in Europe. And you can go through a Scudetto run, playing pragmatic defensive football because of, I guess, how tactical the league is. But this football is apparently supposed to win in Europe, and I guess that's what the intention was in getting Pirlo. But
And they lost to Ajax, Lyon, and FC Porto, not Bayern, Manchester City, and Real Madrid. So that
yeah,
ends that discussion. So
which is why, like, which is why I'm just confused with this whole project. And I think that, I guess, speaks to the management, because I think they're also confused. Like, they also didn't really have a plan. Three coaches in 3 years. So that's another reason why I don't think Pirlo will go, because of how ridiculous that looks as well. And it'll look even worse on the management than it already does. But there's only a certain amount of time you can go without winning at Juventus, especially with the caliber, of players that they have, and not to mention Cristiano Ronaldo. So I mean, I think it's fair to give Pirlo, I guess, one more season as long as we make the top four. Um, but quickly, I guess, to end this off, what changes, I guess, need to be made um, for next season, because I think we can agree that the Scudetto race is over and we can potentially go trophyless. So what needs to change? What personnel, you can just say who needs to go and who needs to
well,
come in.
who needs to go?
You know,
Well, like I said,
you can
Dybala
go
has to go.
from the top as well, because I think they need to be held accountable. I think
Yeah,
it's
but
about time.
I'm not a big critic of Paratici. I think he's a great sporting director. Nedved is a guy, a Juve legend. How absurd would it be that Juventus would now fire Pavel Nedved? You know, you just don't do that. It's like, would it be like Milan firing Paolo Maldini? You don't do that. So at the top, who are they going to get? A betting sporting director? Mochi from Sevilla? No. So I'm like, no. Pirlo is going to stay because the reasons you mentioned. So it's going down to players, and going to Dybala has to go. Bonici is going to stay, but yeah, he would be allowed to go. In my opinion, I hope for him that Buffon retires, because it's getting really old at this point. Chiellini is going to. Chiellini can go for one more season. Just have him in the locker room would be great, you know. During half times when you're 1-0 down in a Champions League quarterfinal or something. Rabiot should go, in my opinion. Bentancur has been awful, so I've never been a fan of Bentancur, but I don't know what his strength is, you know. I don't know what he does well. He doesn't do anything particularly bad, but he doesn't do anything well, you know.
Yep.
Bernardeschi has to go, and by that point you should have collected enough money. Maybe Alexandro, but I'm not against Alexandro. I feel he's a very good left back, so he can play in multiple positions also, which is important. So if you got like 4 or 5 players who can leave, like I said, Locatelli is a must-have for this Juventus. I would love a guy like Memphis Depay, because he can play in multiple positions, and he's like he has something, you know. Memphis, he has something. He plays for a Dutch team who don't play with a striker, and he's turning himself into a 9 who can score goals, give assists. He can do anything. So I feel if you can sell, like, you know, Dybala, Bernardeschi, maybe Bentancur, Rabiot in midfield, and you replace them with Locatelli, and like I said, one of De Paul or Aouar from Lyon, you should have taken a step forward from this season and have more weapons to feed Ronaldo, to feed Morata. But I just don't think that Juventus at this point is ready to make or to challenge Inter for the Scudetto, especially not this season, but also not next season. Because their team is there, you know, Inter. Lukaku has been great. I've been a massive critic of Lukaku for years. And now I have to say, you know, he's the best striker in Italy. Lautaro Martinez is there. Conte is, a phenomenal coach. Sorry, Juve fans, but Antonio Conte is a phenomenal coach. So he would make this Juventus team work and probably win a Scudetto. So there you have it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that goes back and forth in my house. Um, would a more experienced coach uh, have reached a Scudetto with this team? Would they have, passed against Porto? Having a guy like Conte, having a guy like Allegri, ha- would they take this team further? And it's hard to argue that they wouldn't. Um, and that kind of goes back to the Pirlo enthusiasts that I often um, you know have, I guess, constructive arguments on Twitter with, um, which they point fingers at the team constantly over and over and over again, and then when we do something well, um, it's Pirlo that did it. So
Yeah.
uh, it's a heavy discussion, I guess. I think we need to, I think, come to a reality and look at everything in a bigger picture. Um, and from the top down, and what you said, Conte takes you, to a certain place. In my opinion, this is a perfect season for him, being out of the Champions League and having worked with Inter for 2-3 years now, whatever it is. He's in ingrained his tactics in this team, and you
Yeah.
see that with Lautaro and Lukaku being similar to Tevez, Lorente. Like you see the same like going through the same motions. So you obviously know what Conte's tactics are, and
Conte, the bottom line is that Conte built a team at Inter, and the Juve management has built an industry around Ronaldo, and the team is just, plan B. And this is what you get. That is the bottom line of all.
I guess you could argue Marotta made the team, and you know where are things sideways since he's left? in transfer market wise, I think you can make that argument as well, and saying that you don't know if there's anyone better than Paratici out there. Um, I don't know. I don't know about that. Neglecting the midfield for years and years now, um, and putting I guess Ronaldo first, like you said. You kind of said it nicely. So I think it's a lot to think about. I want to thank you, Vince, for joining on this episode that is kind of unfortunate, and like you said, I can't believe we're making a podcast about a 1-0 loss at home to Benevento.
Yeah.
So
Let's never forget this low point.
yeah, it feels even lower with guys like Ronaldo and Chiesa and Chiellini. These guys still on the team, and suffering results
Yeah.
like this all season. Um, but hopefully things turn around this off season, and whether we become trophyless or not this season, I don't think it matters, like you said. um so it's definitely time to just accept it, and go up from there, hopefully. So thanks again for joining, and
My pleasure.
hopefully you have a better week than this. Enjoy the international break away from Juve. I think we'll all appreciate this international break this time around.
Yeah, at this point, it's let's go international football.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, and take care.
Bye.